I decided to yap instead because I just felt like it was more manageable and more digestible and easier for me to do. So that's why we're yapping. This month, I'll be talking about the following: Mexico City coffee shops, cultures, places I'd like to visit. There's a new coffee shop alert in Atlanta, a new coffee shop that I've been going to that I really like that I want to shout out. Um, Houston Third Space Guide. I have a Houston Third Space Guide that I want to talk about. I put it together. I'm really proud of it. I went to over 50 coffee shops in Houston. And yeah, let's get started. This month, I want to talk about coffee culture in Mexico and coffee shops in Mexico. So, Mexico is one of the first countries that I traveled to when one of the first other countries besides the US that I've traveled to. And besides, well, I guess, yeah, it's one of the first countries that I've traveled to besides outside of the United States. And so it has a special place in my heart. I lived in Houston for over 10 years, and Houston is very Mexican. Houston has so many Mexican influences. It's so close to Mexico. The Mexican culture there is so vibrant and impactful. It really shaped Texas. And so Mexican culture is just something that's very close to my heart. And yeah, I first started traveling there back in 2018. I took a bus from Houston. I think it might have been from Austin to Monterey, and then crossed the border, and then took a flight from Monterey to Cancun. At the time, I think the bus was like $30, and so was the flight. So it was really inexpensive. And I was going with my college roommate for spring break. We were trying to do a really inexpensive trip because obviously we were um, college students who didn't have a lot of money. At the time, I was not as big into coffee as I am now, so I don't really remember a lot of the coffee shops there in Cancun. Um, but yeah, definitely my first stop in my journey to Mexico. Since then, I've been back several times, and yeah, I love Mexico. The first time I realized Mexico had an interesting coffee culture scene was back in, I believe it was maybe 2019. I went to Jalisco, Mexico for the first time. Um, I went to Guadalajara, the city of Guadalajara in Jalisco, and I went with my sister. This is right before the pandemic, like, shut everything down. We actually almost got stuck there. And uh yeah, we started going to coffee shops, and I started noticing, oh my god, these coffee shops are beautiful. And like, I was just so in awe of how intentional they were. I think before this, I wasn't big into coffee shops. This is definitely the trip that definitely made me be like, oh my god, I love these spaces. I love how they're designed. I love how the color palettes, and I love the smell of the coffee and how intentional they are with specialty drinks. And um, it just seemed very um, intentional is just a word that I keep thinking of. And like they took coffee very seriously. I discovered this just local guide for Guadalajara. It's called Anti-Turista, and ultimately a shop called Peligro Alfando. And I believe that the owner owns Anti-Turista as well. I might be wrong about that. Um, but it was like a physical map of all a lot of local coffee shops and local shops just in general that they suggested you try, right? So anti-tourista, anti-tourist. And I love traveling um, more slower and more intentionally. And so I loved this idea that they had all these shops that they're like, go try these things. These things are local, support the local economy. And I just love that. So, and they had a lot of great suggestions. And some of the coffee shops were Peligro Fondo, Zuna Cafe. Those are the two that I stick out to my in my mind. I know that we went to a few other ones, but I don't exactly remember them. But I made some TikToks talking about the which coffee shops I would like to visit if I go when I go back. So I'm hoping to be able to go back at some point and just visit coffee shops and just have a good time because we actually ended up having to leave early because of the pandemic. All the flights were getting canceled. So the second city in Mexico that I've visited that I love their coffee scene is Mexico City, La Ciudad de Mexico. And I feel like, again, just beautiful. Everything was so, you could just tell it was selected, and someone spent a lot of time on the coffee shops there. The plateware is so intentional, the colors, the design, the some of the most beautiful coffee shops I've ever seen have been in Mexico. And just as far as like the greenery and the open space, and then sometimes there some spaces are darker, and it's just like it's so good. I'm gonna drop some photos. One thing I noticed about that's different about American culture, coffee culture, and Mexican coffee culture is the coffee shops in Mexico actually open a little bit later, late afternoon, late morning, as opposed to here where I'm used to coffee shops opening as early as I think they should open, and that being really common. We here like to take our coffee to go. We're very like fast paced, and um, yeah, we'll sit sometimes and work at a coffee shop, or if we're looking for community, we'll go and spend some time there with friends and new people. But we have a very fast paced culture when it comes to coffee. It's like get in, get out. This is something I need for my day. Whereas it felt like in Mexico, it was a little bit slower, kind of like the vibes that like Europe gives me. Where I saw somewhere that it said that coffee is still a little bit of a luxury, or coffee culture is still a bit of a luxury in Mexico. And so I think that it's a little bit slower and it's a little bit more intentional when it comes to drinking that coffee. And it's, it's a part of their day, but they sit down and they take their time, and it's just not as fast paced, which was at first a little bit of a culture shock, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like I was I stayed a month in Mexico City, and I was working while I was there, or I was digital nomading while I was there, and yeah, I just was like, okay, I need these coffee shops to open. The only one that was open super early was Starbucks. And so yeah, it was a little bit different, of a speed. Also noticed that like a lot of the cafes that I was going to in Mexico, you could go work at some, but there was a lot of like small cafes where the point was to go get your coffee and have a seat. They might have had some seats out front, but it felt very to go like. Um, and yeah, there's just like this, it's not a coffee cart, but like, uh, I can't think of the word, like stores where it was pretty much, it's just small coffee shops. They're very small, it felt like. Um, and so that not all of them are very work friendly. When I was in Mexico, I would work from co-working spaces more often than not than coffee shops, just in and of themselves. Um, yeah. Speaking of coffee culture, my sister recently put me onto this coffee magazine. It's called Drift, and it documents different coffee shops around the world in different cities. This edition is Mexico City, which is so exciting. And so they do different articles and deep dives into different coffee shops, different local shops, what the coffee culture in the city is like. Um, yeah, some of the coffee shops that they mention are Jarocho, El Jarocho, Buena, El Moro, Cafe El Popular. And I really suggest getting them. You can go and buy previous ones, but it's a good way to like really learn more about um, different roasters, and then culture within Mexico City, um, and how it might differ from the culture in your city. Okay. moving on. A new coffee shop in Atlanta. So I recently, me and my sister recently discovered a new coffee shop in Atlanta. It's called Aviator Coffee, and this is a former coffee cart that has now taken up residence in, I think it's the W Atlanta building downtown. So you walk into this space, and um, they have a like concierge, a front desk for the offices that are in the building. But then to your left, there's a coffee shop. You walk in, there's a coffee bar where you can order. Oh my God, they have these pastries. This blueberry, no, not blueberry, lavender poppy seed um, muffin that is chef's kiss, incredible. Like I've literally gotten more than like two because it was so good, and reasonably priced. And but the big surprise of this coffee shop, or the big selling point, is when you continue to walk through the doors and you take a right, there's stairs that take you downstairs, and there's this huge um, working space, co-working space that you get to use if you buy a coffee, which is incredible. And sometimes they do have events and things that go down there, and they're closed, but for the most part they're open, and it's just a incredible place to work. It's an incredible place to get shit done, to focus, to have a meeting, have a call. It's just a beautiful space. I'll try and link some photos. Um, but me and my sister have really enjoyed going there over the last month. And yeah, the baristas are also nice, and everyone's really personable. Reese, who is one of the baristas, remembers people's names, and tries to remember your name if you're going to be a regular, which is just really endearing. And what I would like out of a coffee shop is to feel like I'm a part of the community, and I feel like that there. So I definitely suggest checking them out. Okay. Next, let's talk about Houston third spaces. So I recently was just back in Houston, um, about a few weeks to a month ago, visiting family. I love Houston. It's home. And I got a chance to revisit some coffee shops. And while I was there last year, I visited over 50 coffee shops. And if you're in Houston, I know that it can sometimes be hard to make community and meet people, or just have spaces to work in which you are able to focus that aren't in your house. So this is for remote workers, 9 to 5ers, creatives, writers, people who want to work from Houston and or create community. I have two guides, one for a work from home guide for which coffee shops in Houston are the best for working from home. And then number two is which coffee shops I suggest if you want to go and meet people and put yourself out there and get a sense of community. So I will link that in the newsletter if you'd like to check that out. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this. That's what I have for this month. And it's been fun sitting here and yapping with you. Hopefully we get to do this again soon. We'll see how this goes. Let me know if you like this style better. Thanks for having a cup of coffee with me, and I hope that you're well. Um, don't forget to follow me on Local Cup on Instagram, TikTok. I'm thinking about getting on Twitch. I do go live every Wednesday on TikTok at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we drink some coffee and we just create. I'm learning to draw, so come. It's a virtual third space for you to hang out every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, this has been so fun. I hope you're well. And I'll see you next time.